let's get started, and I want you to do this, and I'm kind of doing this as a purpose. But everybody just touch your heart or touch your chest area, and just repeat this after me. Say, I am with great reverence
I am with great reverence
and great wonder
and great wonders
created
created
and set apart
and set apart
and distinguished
and distinguished
from all creation
from all creation
to be like
to be like
my Creator,
my Creator,
my Father,
my Father,
God.
God.
Yes.
All right. See, amen. And that's what the Bible says. Okay, starting out, I wanted to say this up front as a repeat of things that I do say, that the Bible is not a, Son, you want to give her a Bible? Thank you. Thank you. The Bible is not a history book. I realized that right out of the first starting gate, right out of the get-go. That's contrary to what you've been taught. I know that everybody looks at it and thinks about it and talks about it like it's a history and read it in that fashion. But if you study it and you really set your mind to research the things in it, you realize if it is a history, it's not accurate. That creates a lot of problems because of its inaccuracy. Now, if you took the Bible 100 years ago or more, before pre-computer, if you took the Bible and you studied it, it would be very few people, probably 1 out of 1,000, maybe 1 out of 100,000, who had the kind of photographical memory that could remember the contradictions that are in it. Or in other words, the places where it literally contradicts itself. But since the computer age, it's simple. Anybody you can Google it. And Google's God, knows everything. But it's not just Google being God or knowing everything. It's that the computer puts it in a memory bank, and all you have to do is through the click of a button you can check, and so therefore anybody has at their fingertip the ability to check and see what a vast book like the Bible, 66 books compiled together, it makes up somewhere between 12, 14, 1,600 pages depending on the kind you have, is a huge book. And most everybody, I know when I first started reading the Bible, which has been 46, 48 years ago, it's hard to believe it's been that long ago, but I was in my mid to late 20s, mid-20s, when I first started reading the Bible. Prior to that, I didn't read it. And when I first started, I'm going to tell you right now, I thought there's not any way anybody can ever read this whole book. Of course, I got involved with a group of people who was making it a discipline to read a certain amount of chapters a day, and then you could read the whole Bible in a year. And for me, that was a huge mountain. No way I could ever get over that mountain because it was just such a vast book with so many different topics over so many hundreds, even thousands of years. And so to see how the things could go correctly and accurately was beyond my level of comprehension. But just methodically, line upon line, precept upon precept, just continually whittling at it, I found out that you can get a lot further in it than you realize you can. And so I found out that I had an ability to remember a lot of things that I had read that I could draw back on and go back, and I thought, well, now that don't fit. And so when I first started questioning the veracity of the Bible, that it could possibly have mistakes in it, that's a no-no. You remember what they told you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, buddy, you better not do that. I mean, they'd throw me out already. What do you mean there's mistakes? You have to think about it. And all you have to do is you just use a little bit of logic. And you realize that this is a book that was written over hundreds or thousands of years. And some of the books are fairly long. Some of them will have 50 chapters in them. Or you take the Psalms as 150 something chapters. And so you're talking about a lot of writing. But you got to remember, a scribe back then wrote it word for word, line upon line. And anybody that's ever done that, if you ever wrote a letter and then went back and read your letter and said, uh-oh, I think I left out a word, maybe a sentence, or sure didn't spell something right. Well, I do that constantly. So if you think a scribe was able to, and I had this idea, this was the idea that I was given by the priestcraft, that a scribe was someone sitting here writing it down, and God was telling them word by word, spelling it so that there would be no mistakes at all. That is not true. It didn't happen that way. It didn't happen that way. No, but scribes would write, and that's the only way you could get it from one person to the next, when somebody had to write it down. Or if you could possibly go to a library. And there were libraries back then. You could go and look at the books and read them. But the possibility for errors was huge, and is. And that's why there are hundreds and hundreds of errors in the Bible. And all you have to do is just Google it. Just Google errors in the Bible, and it'll come up with pages and pages of things. Now, does that discredit it? Absolutely not. Please hear what I'm saying. That does not discredit it. Does it lessen it in its power or in its holiness? Absolutely not. What it causes me to do is research more and try to find out why the error is there, or was it a purposeful error? And so not to try to disprove it or not to try to discount it. What I want to do is try to prove more and more what it means. And I've come through my own study and research, I've come to realize it is not a history book. It's not trying to tell a history, because if it is, it makes too many mistakes in the history of it. But it is a mystery book that approaches the tabernacle, the temple, the house, the dwelling place of God from many different angles. And so each time it approaches to describe or to show how this building is built, how this temple is constructed, it may approach it from a different angle and therefore use different analogies, different places, different measurements to come up with the same identical thing. But when I got over that hurdle and I realized, wow, this is a book about the physical anatomy, and Genesis is the foundation of that. It lays the whole foundational structure of the physical anatomy out. And there's no mistakes, and nobody did anything wrong. That was one thing that really got me, that man and woman back there that messed us all up. And if you got any reason to be angry or mad at somebody, you ought to be mad at them. It ain't something you did. They did it. And you'd think if God is truly just, if God is truly honest, He would punish the one who done the mistake. Hello? Not you. You didn't do that. Now you may have the potential to do it and done something like it, but so that never sat well with me, and so therefore I have spent a lot of years researching Genesis, and that's become probably a theme of my life, is the Genesis story, because I think it's the foundation story of every person's life. Because I know, I don't believe, I don't think, I know that if you get the Genesis story correct for you, you have the potential and you have the ability and you have the power to heal yourself, to fix yourself, to correct yourself. And no one else can do that. Only you can do that. And only you have the purpose to do that. Or else you can stay the way you are. And my advice to you, if you're going to do that, just enjoy yourself the best you can. And live your life the best you can. But I'm saying that the Bible is a book about the perfect temple of God, which is your body, and God didn't make a mistake in building it, and there have been no mistakes made that caused you to be the way you are, other than you just living life. You live the life that you've lived step by step, and so you are where you are, but you don't have to be where you're at if you want to go further or change or anything like that. It's all within your capacity. It's in your ability to do that. And of course, I have someone sitting right here at my left hand that Alzheimer's has affected. And my prayer would be that we can reverse that, or we can change that, or we can do certain things. And so here she sat, she's listening, she's looking, who knows what's going on in there. But my prayer is words have healing power. Whether they're my words or your words.
Right.
Words have destructive power. Whether they're my words or your words. So I want to be cautious with my words, and I want my words to be sent forth with a power of healing that can go in there and help her make some adjustments or things that can be done to correct whatever is the issue.
Right.
Okay? So, I'm going to take 3 particular words that's in the Bible, and I'm going to put them over here on the board that I'm going to work with. Can y'all read my writing?
Yes.
Okay. Y'all see those 3 words? Heaven, man, and curse. Now those 3 words are used in Genesis 1, 2, and 3 a lot. Quite a bit. And all 3 of those words have been incorrectly given to you. And I'm choosing my words, okay? They have been incorrectly. In other words, the word heaven does not mean what you've been told that it means. The word man, and I could just do it this way, man / Adam, A-D-A-M, does not mean what you have been told that it means. And the word curse does not mean what you've been told that it means. And so I'm just saying this, that you or I or anybody else can get a concordance, and with a little bit of research and a little bit of diligence, rolling up your sleeve and spending some time, you can come up with the fact yourself that these words don't mean what I have been told, and therefore what I think that they mean. In other words, if I take the word heaven and I were to talk about heaven, every one of you and every person, whether they are in Christianity or Judaism or Hindu or Buddhism, you name it, they're going to think it's a place out yonder somewhere. That's how humanity has been duped and deceived about that word. The same thing's true with man / Adam. If we were to talk about that, whether I'm talking to a Christian, a Jew, a Hindu, or a Buddhist, they're going to think that man / Adam was a character in the Bible who lived 6,000 or so years ago and screwed humanity up. That's what they're going to think. That's not what that word means. Then they're going to take the word curse and the way we have used it. Matter of fact, this word didn't even exist in English until around the 16th, 15th, 16th century. Only 400, 500, 600 years that word was created. So, isn't it amazing how that these words, and words are very important. You get the word wrong, hey, I don't care what, you can be as sincere, as dedicated as anything. But if you have the root basis of the word wrong, you can't build what you need to build right.
That's right.
And so that's difficult. I know that's difficult for most of us. And so in Hebrew, this particular word, I'll spell it. I don't look like I know. I'm going to run out of board. Sheen, Mem, Yod, Mem. I spell that way. Sheen, Mem, Yod, Mem. If you notice, the 2 mems are different. Actually, I should probably always say final mem, because this is called the final mem. So, and in Hebrew, there's a difference in the definition of the 2. Even though they're both called mem, and they're both water glyphs. By that I just simply mean they are hugely important in the whole Genesis story, because they're hugely important to you and to your existence, because no water, no you. Period. We can have rocks, we can have diamonds, we can have everything, all kinds of stuff. No water, no you.
That's right.
That's it. And so again, I said this last week, if science today is looking to try to find life on any other planet, the first thing, the most important thing they want to see is there water there. Because if there's no water, then there's not anything. So that word right there, and I'll talk about this word. Then this word, Adam, is spelled Aleph, Dalit, Mem, final Mem. Now Adam can be spelled two different ways. It can be spelled Aleph, Dalit, final Mem, or it can be spelled Aleph, Dalit, regular Mem. It can be spelled both ways. Still say the same thing, Adam. But the meaning of the word is different. Even though I would say Adam, the word would mean something different if I used the regular Mem as opposed to the final Mem. So I know that can maybe a little bit confusing or whatever. And then this word curse is spelled with the Aleph. And this is a phenomenal word in Hebrew. Aleph, Arash, Arash. So, that's funny, yeah. Aleph, Arash, Arash. Okay? Arash is a 200 value. Rash means fire. Like, for instance, the word for spirit is ruach. And the very first glyph in the word for spirit in Hebrew, ruach, is the rash. It means fire. It has symbolic meaning toward light or the sun. So if you're looking at the sun, you think about a big ball of fire. You look at the sun, you think about light, and you associate life, L-I-F-E, with that, right? No light, no fire, no life. So you have to have some combinations going on here. You got to have light, fire, and water. So when you get fire and water, now you got something. You got some ingredients now right here. We can work with that stuff. You just need to add a few more chemicals and compounds, and voila, the building blocks are infinitum. What you can do with it, what can happen with that. Now this word curse, or this word right here, if I wanted to just say the word light, it would be that right there. Aleph, Rash, or. That's how you would say that, or. That means light. In the beginning, the light. Okay? Now, if I wanted to say curse, I would do it that way. Or rar. Now, if I wanted to spell, I'm telling you this because these three words mesh together. The word light, the word curse, and I'm going to put this over here. That's called the Tov. That's the last glyph in the Hebrew alphabet of the 22 glyphs. And actually it's 400 value, and it means time. And if I put this on the end of this word curse, it would be Ararat. Have you ever heard of that?
Mm-hmm.
What is Ararat?
Mountain.
It's the mountain where the big boat landed. And really what the word Ararat means, it means a point in time where you are at that point to start anew. It's a phenomenal word. It's not really referring to a mountain, it's referring to a point. And you can experience Ararat every day. A point in time where you are ready to begin anew. So, that's just an overview. Those three words right there are grossly misunderstood and also misused. The ancient Hebrew text that we call Genesis was not originally written to be a history or of of the creation of the earth and the heavens and the whole universe. But it was a mystery of our Creator God's house, temple, home, dwelling place, which is you, which is the physical body. Because God built you, so God, I hope you hear it, God built you so God could move in you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you not know your body is the home of God?
Yes.
Exactly what it says, 1 Corinthians chapter 4 and chapter 6.
Mm-hmm.
Do you not know that your body, you can touch yourself, your body, and say, this is God's home. Touch yourself and do that. Touch yourself and say, this is where God lives.
This is where God
This is where God lives, see?
Yeah.
This is where God lives. God don't live out there. God lives right here. Why? Because it's in God living here that God can see its creation. Can taste it, smell it, feel it, hear it. It's God living in here. God can experience what God created. It's its whole purpose. And when you start to grasp that, you begin to realize how marvelous you really are. Just exactly like it tells you, Psalms 134. God created you wonderfully and marvelously. And those words mean with great reverence and respect. That's who you are. And that's how God sees you. So God has created you for that purpose and with that design. I want to read you something I wrote here. It says, out of their primordial being, the Elohim, that's the word for God, Elohim, when actually the word means gods or powers, and has reference to the astrological wheel. So, you know, in that alone, yes, Bev?
I know you've said this before, but to clear, God's Elohim aspects, different aspects of God. Instead of thinking, now I'm just saying, instead of thinking God as many different things, He's everything, and that, so it isn't like He's a whole bunch of, we are a bunch of gods, but God is, He has so many facets. We can't do all the things that we can do. Some of the things we've been called to do, but when it disturbs me when you say gods, because I think different parts of His personality and different aspects of Him, but to say that it just mixes me up when I think of gods, because He is just one God, and He's got all these different things that He can do and that we are, and He distributes His attributes to us of what we're to do and that. But the gods, it's just like, it's almost, I don't think it's nice at all. So, I don't know, with what I said, I don't know if you can, but every time you say that, there's, I get a mental block.
Okay. Okay, well, when I see it, when I say gods, Elohim, from the ancient Hebrew, what I see is this wheel, or this circle, and then of course I see all of the divisions of this circle, which are actually 12. So when I say gods, I actually see one whole, but I see 12 pieces of a pie. It would be like for me to take a tangerine or an orange and cut it in the middle and look at it has 12 segments. And I could call any one of those segments the grapefruit or the orange, or I could call all 12 of them orange or oranges. So for me, when I say gods, I'm referring to all, because see, in all the aspects of the astrological wheel, the sun, what you have is you have the sun moving in this wheel, and in every segment of that wheel, the power, light, energy changes. It just does. Now you don't notice it, you don't feel it unless you do it drastically. Like for instance, if you were to get up from 6 to 8 in the morning, and that's sunrise. So I'm saying from this right here, from 6 to 8, if you go outside from 6 to 8, you could go out there, you could take your shirt off, if you're a man or whatever, and you could get sun, and it would not burn you. Just would not burn you. But you could do the same thing, you can go out there from 2 to 4 in the afternoon, same sun, same earth, same man, and it will burn you. Now, do you think that the sun is further away at 6 o'clock and closer from 2 to 4? It's not. It's exactly the same distance. What's the difference? The difference is the power and the energy that's in it. And so that's why I say the Elohim, Genesis, when you take the Hebrew word Elohim with the mem on the end of it, right here, the mem, makes it plural. It's like putting an S on the word. It means it's more than one. So there are more than one aspects of God, but God is one.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when I say the gods, I'm referring to all of the 12 powers. Like, for instance, if I'm following the astrological wheel from 6 to 8, this is called Aries. This is also called the head. And so this is the energy to build in the astrological power wheel, whatever, to build the head. And so the energy to build the head is different from the energy. This right here, this is before sunrise in the morning. This is Pisces. The energy to build the feet was a different energy to build the head. And if I'm looking at the man, human laid in this astrological wheel, I would have the head, I would have the shoulder and the neck, and then I would have the arms, and then I would have the lungs, and I would have the heart, and then I would have the abdomen, the womb, and then I would have the pelvic, and etc. Come right on that around to the thighs, the knees, below the legs, and the feet. And the energy of the sun and the knowledge of the sun is what builds all of that. So it's a different level of energy, and if you notice, it does it every day. So that's what, when I was saying, even though I see the plurality and the differences in God, but I still see one. Does that
Yeah.
clear it any at all? Make it a little clearer? No? Maybe a whole lot? I hope. Okay, let me read this to you out of this. Out of their primordial being, the Elohim, gods. The gods, that's what it means. The Elohim, the gods, engendered spirit and matter. And my emphasis here is not on spirit above matter or matter above spirit. It engendered spirit and matter. It takes the two to make you. Period. If there was no spirit breath, you would not be you. If there was no matter for spirit breath to be in, there would be no you. So for you to say that it's more important for me to be spiritual or for me to be more like God because God is spirit, that's incorrect. You're thinking that you wouldn't even be human if that's how you were. You have to be both human and spirit. So spirit and matter, the two are one. And they're designed to be that way. They're designed. To paraphrase it a little more elaborately, it might be put, from out of the depths of the infinite being, the Elohims, the gods, formed the upper and the lower ranges of life. For me, when I hear upper and lower ranges of life, I put my little stick man over here. He's kind of small, so y'all have to look really good here.
He's a midget stick.
But they're still, this is you. And you're built, these are the endocrine glands. These are also the 7 churches. These are also the 7 colors of the rainbow. These are also the 7 endocrine glands. These are also the 7 chakras in Eastern terms. Any place you find 7, these are the 7, which is you. Again, it comes back to you.
Right.
So, yeah, and knowing that or getting that, and the upper, this upper would be, we use the word heart. Remember last week I talked about the word heart really referring to the core. You remember the core? It's not just the heart, but if I say just the heart, you just think of the pumper, right?
Yep.
But if I say the core, you're thinking, what does he mean? Didn't you? If I said the core, what do I mean? Well, see, I'm meaning everything from the head to your sexual organ as one. How could that possibly be? There is an organ that God put in you that makes all that one. That organ God put in you, which is an organ, is called your brain. But yet we restrict the brain to the head and don't look. And I told you about when Connie would take her to the neurologist, he would pull his little rubber thing out. I wish I had it. I'd show it to you. He would pull it out, and it would be the organ of the brain, and it would be just exactly like that. And of course, it has all these. In other words, the brain is not just restricted to here. The brain goes down. It incorporates the heart, the lungs, the kidneys, the bladder, the sexual organs. It incorporates all of that as one, and that's called in ancient material as your core. Got translated as your heart. If you see it as your heart, you're just looking at the thing that's pumping blood. But if you look at it as your core, you realize it's not just pumping blood, it's making my entire body function. Isn't it? It's going on right now. Because your bladder's bladding, your liver's living,
Cleansing.
your lungs are breathing. They're all doing it, and they're doing it all simultaneously. In other words, one of them's not having to make a choice of, hey, let me filter here a little bit while y'all doing everything. No, it's all functioning and working as one. So that's your brain. That's the function of your brain. Your brain's function. And your brain's function is not to think. Your brain's function is to take thought and send the synapse throughout your body and cause your body to respond to the thought. Right? And so that's, your brain is like a thunderstorm. Why? Because you have so many thoughts and you have so many functions going on inside your body. That's the brain's design. That's how it's designed. But the mind is all around you. The mind is like an auric field, and that mind is also called your soul. Well, your soul and your spirit are designed to separate in unison, but yet they're separate functions. They're separate designs. They're not the same thing. Just like your brain is not your bladder. But your brain and your bladder function together. They have to work together to create and to do the same thing. So the upper and the lower. The upper generally is called the spirit. The lower is generally called matter or material. And that which connects them in the heart or the core is called the soul. You have to have that to bring it both together. The soul. So, he says, I just read just what I said over here, the upper and the lower ranges of life. The upper and the lower worlds are heaven and earth. Just like this right here. This word heaven, Shin Mem, this is the upper. Yod Mem, this is the lower. So the word heaven is talking about the upper and the lower aspects of your being. And that's what the glyphs mean. That's how the glyphs are designed to be that way. So the upper are the spiritual, the lower is the material, and the idea is from the head source of being. The creative powers create life in two aspects, spirit and matter. And that spirit and matter. Not spirit, and I don't need matter. You need your body. But you need your body to function the way it's designed to function. And the only way it's going to function the way it's designed to function is for you to treat it the way it's been designed to be treated. And we don't do that. I don't do that. But I'm learning. I've got to learn how to do that. Now I want to read you something out of this book. This book was written in 1927 and is considered a magnum opus of all spiritual material. And of course, you see, it's pretty big. It's about 700-800 pages. And I want to read you something here that Manly P. Hall wrote. And he died in 1990, but he was a phenomenal writer. Wrote a lot of books. Matter of fact, you can still go online and still hear some of his talks. You can just Google them, you still get them. The Greeks, the Persians, the Egyptians, and the Hindus considered a philosophical analysis of man's triune nature to be an indispensable part of ethical and religious training. The mysteries of every nation taught the laws, elements, and the powers of the universe were epitomized in the human constitution. That everything which existed outside man had its analog within man. Thus the aphorism, as above, so below, as without, so within. So all that really simply says is everything you see going on out there in nature, in the sun, in the stars, and the planets, is going on inside you. And so if you realize that's a mirror of you, and there's no mistake in that. Even though there can be storms, there can be cold and hot, there can be all kinds of things going on. There's no mistake in it. It is perfect and runs on a perfect schedule.
Lynn, that's like, and I know these sound contradictory, but it's within the whole system of us. It's like the evergreens and the trees that lose their leaves in the fall. It's still part of the cycle.
It's cycle, exactly. That's what I told Linda when she called to just let us know that she wouldn't be here and for prayer. I said, a lot of times the physical body will contact a flu, a virus, pollen. A lot of people react differently. I said, and their body does that on purpose so that that body can build its immunity. It may be weaker in certain areas, and so your body does that so that it can build an immunity toward that virus or toward that circumstance or situation so that your body can get stronger. If we feed it right, if we do the things that's necessary, then it will respond the way it's supposed to respond. So, the universe being immeasurably in its immensity and inconceivable in its profundity was beyond mortal estimation. Even the gods themselves could comprehend but a part of the inaccessible glory which was their source. When temporarily permitted with divine enthusiasm, man may transcend for a brief moment the limitations of his own personality and behold in part that celestial effulgence in which all creation is bathed. But even in his periods of greatest illumination, man is incapable of imprinting upon the substance of his rational soul a perfect image of the multiform expression of celestial activity. That's a lot. But what he's saying is whatever is out there in the celestial is also right here in the terrestrial. So what is in the spirit is also in the natural. What is out there is in here. And he goes on to a lot of ways of explaining that and talking about that in different ways. That book right there. I wore that book out. That's okay. I want you to go with me to the book of Genesis. You didn't think we were going to get to use the Bible. We just used a couple of things here in the book of Genesis. Just read three passages that we read last week. Genesis chapter 1, verse 6. Genesis chapter 1, verse 6. Verse 6 says, "And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters." Everybody see that? Everybody say, in the middle,
In the middle.
midst, core of the waters. That word midst is actually the Hebrew word, and we talked about it last week, it's the Hebrew word tavek. And actually the word means center or core. Now he said, let there be a firmament in the center or in the core. Now, if I said the center or the core, I'm talking about right here. Okay? And it's not here to divide. It's not here to divide the upper from the lower. It's here to unite the upper and the lower. It's here to make you one. That's the whole purpose of it. It's in the midst or in the core. It's just like I said about this brain. This brain goes from, not just from up here in the top of your head, goes down your neck, down through the core of your backbone, and from it shoots nerves throughout your entire body so that it unites the whole body as one unit and causes it to function that way as one unit. So when it says here, it's in the core, in the midst, all right? Go with me to Genesis chapter 2. Okay, and this is in the midst of the waters. This equals waters. It's called heaven, but it actually equals waters. The waters above and the waters below. It's the waters that building blocks for the human body. The waters. In the middle of the waters. Midst of the waters. All right, Genesis 2:9. Everybody over there? "And out of the ground made the Lord God to grow every tree that's pleasant for sight and good for food, the tree of life also in the midst of the garden." Everybody say in the middle of the garden. Or in the core of the garden. In the core. In the core, same word. It's hard for you to do that, isn't it? In the core. Again, where's the core? The core is that part that goes throughout the entire body and makes it one. Pulls that together. We call it heart. We say that. We call it heart. Or if we say it's in the middle, we don't see its full picture. If you say the core, now you can start to see its full picture, because if you say the core, you're not just talking about the brain and the top of the brain, you're talking about the nerves in your gonads, in your sexual organs, or in anywhere else in there. It's in the core. It's in the very center of your being. In other words, it's combining your whole being to one place, in the midst. And you notice it says, where does it say that this one's at? In the midst of what? In the midst of the garden. The word garden in Hebrew is the word gan. And the word gan means protected place. It's referring to the embryonic sac in which this is built and developed. In other words, the human body, the temple, the tabernacle of God is built inside the womb of a woman in an embryonic sac. That's what the word garden means. Now I know you get the picture when they translated garden, you're looking, if y'all see I posted my garden on Facebook, Jamie responded to it, and a lot of other people have seen it, said, wow, that's a pretty garden. And it is a pretty garden, and it is a garden, but that's not the proper use of this word gan. If it said protected place, then it makes you have to stop and think, whoa, wait a minute, a protected place, what does that mean? That means that it's protected. You were built in a place where you were protected, and anybody using their logical, reasonable, right mind realizes the embryonic sac is that place of protection. It's also an ocean of fluid, water, in which you were built, just exactly like a fish swimming in an ocean. That's what the word gan, translated for garden. Now, would it have changed it a lot if they'd have used embryonic sac? Ah, it changed everything. And you know what? It would have made sense to you because you come right out of this place where in this embryonic sac you have a stream in the core that comes from your psychological. The biggest problem we have going on in our nation today is not guns, it's psychological problems. I mean, just really look at it. The gun don't kill nobody. It's a psychological imbalance. We have a epidemic right now. All you got to do is go on. There is an epidemic right now of teenage suicide. Kids 12, 14, 16 killing themselves. Well, I never heard of nothing like that when I was a kid growing up. What is going on? I mean, you know, why are we so slow to smell the roses? I mean, look around and see what's happening. We have a psychological deficiency in our culture today. We're not training them. We're not teaching them. We're not giving them the disciplines that's necessary for them to grow and function the way they're designed to function. And therefore, when they get 12, 14, 16, 18, they have lost their meaning for life and they want to die and they kill themselves. God, psychological. And so right here in this part, the first midst was between the waters. In other words, God now is bringing the waters from above, spiritual, and the waters from below, material, and He's merging them together. It's called fire in water, breath in water, and He's creating you. God, that's something. But in the midst of that creation, here is the second thing. He says, in the middle of the garden, and now He goes right out of this into the heart and the four extremities called the four rivers, and goes right out of this chapter into the next chapter, into the nafesh, which is the psychological aspect of your being. And he says it's in the midst of that too. Matter of fact, just go with me right there next. Genesis chapter 3. Just go to that part. In the midst of the garden, God's connecting. In the core of the garden, in the heart of the garden, I'm going to stick back with that word core because the importance of what it means. The core of the garden, God's bringing the spirit and soul together. They're not the same thing. God's bringing the spirit and soul together. In Genesis chapter 3, verse 3, but of the tree which is in the midst of the garden. Here again, this is the third place this phrase is used. It's only used this way. Third place. In the core of the garden, and in this place where God is already in Genesis 2, He's tied the spirit and the soul together. In this place right now, He's beginning to tie the psychological to the experiential, so that now you know how to live your life. And how do I get that? Well, let's go back up to Genesis 3:1. It says, and now the serpent. The word serpent, nachesh. Let me spell these two words for you. If I don't know if I even wrote them down here somewhere. Oh well. I just... Oh. This spelling right here, nun, fe, sheen, nafesh, that's the word for soul. This word here, non, cheot, sheen, nachesh, the only difference is the fe and the cheot. That's the word for serpent. And when I say serpent, do you know what you think? You think snake. Sneaky snake, right? Sneaky snake. The one climbed up in that tree and spoke those sweet nothings to that woman, and she said, okay, I'll eat that apple. It ain't nowhere in the story. Ain't nowhere in the story. That word right there, that word means to learn by experience. I can take you, well, I just tell you what, let's do it real quickly. I'm right on the end of my, I wanted to finish, but I realize these things are so complicated. 1 Kings chapter 20, if you can just find it real quickly. Real quickly, 1 Kings chapter 20. First Kings chapter 20, and look at verse 33. And I earnestly ask any of you to get a concordance, or anybody here interested in it, get you a concordance, look this up for yourself. It says, has everybody found it there? 1 Kings chapter 20, verse 33. I know it. Take your minute, just go to your index and find it. Turn there. You got it? What's the first word?
Now.
Now the men did, what's the next word?
Diligently.
Diligently observe. You know what that word is? That's this word right here. Nafesh. Now read it and do like the translators did in Genesis chapter 3:1. Read it this way, say, now the men did serpent. Now why would they take that word nafesh and translate it for serpent in Genesis chapter 3 and take the same identical Hebrew word here in 1 Kings chapter 20 verse 33 and use the word diligently observe? Because if you look the word up, it means diligently observe. It means learn by experience. If you diligently observe your experiences, you will find yourself learning leap by leap. Why? Because see, in Genesis chapter 3, you're dealing with the psychological. The psychological is that which, if it's not diligently observing, if it's not learning by the experience it's having, then it could lag in its cultivation and development. And does. Falls way behind.
Relearn and relearn and relearn.
Exactly. It just over and over. All right, go back with me to Genesis chapter 30. Genesis chapter 30. Right there, Genesis chapter 30, verse 27.
Because you're stuck.
Got it? Genesis chapter 30, verse 27. Everybody found it?
Yeah.
And it says, and Laban said unto him, I pray thee, if I have found favor in thine eyes, tarry, for I have learned by experience. Just look that word up. Learn by, it's that word right there. Nafesh. It's the word that translated for serpent. Now you think that that's not a gross error in words? Of course it is. Is it intention and on purpose? Of course it is. Why? It's to throw the story, or it's for another reason. And I think that this is the greater reason. I don't think it's to throw the story. The greater reason is, you see, I can teach you how to observe yourself. I can teach you things and you can learn about yourself, but I cannot teach you how to go into the mystery of yourself. Can't be done. Do you know why? And you know why these are called great mysteries? Because nobody can go in that holy place but you. That's why if you go back into the temple in the wilderness, the Mosaic temple, there were 3 sections to that temple, and only one section, one person could go in there. You remember that? Who could go in there?
Only the high priest.
Only the high priest, the Holy of Holies.
Once a year.
He could only go in there. You and only you can go into the holy of your temple.
Yes.
No one. I can't get into your private place.
Right.
I can be a psychic. I can do all kinds of mind reading, but I cannot get in your core. Only you can get in your core, and only you can go in there, and only you can reason with God. And only you can work out your salvation there. And that's where it's at. And that's why it was always called a mystery. And that's why people say, well, why do they want to write it all in secret? It's not written in secret. It's written as a secret, and only you alone can go in that holy place of your being.
That's like eating an apple. I mean, you can sit there and describe to us how that apple is, and we can watch you eat that apple, but we're not going to know what it tastes like until we go into it, until we eat it ourselves.
You lead a horse to water and you can't make him drink.
Exactly. My point exactly. In the midst.
Yes.
In your core. In your core. Nobody's in there but you and God. And it's in your core that you separate the waters from the waters. It's in your core that you begin to realize what heaven really is. It's in your core where you can begin to see your spirit and soul and their function. And it's in your core that you will learn by your experiences. I can't learn anything from your experience. Period. I can watch you. I can observe and I can say, I don't think I'll do that. I can do that. But I cannot experience what you experienced there. And I'm saying, I'm trying to show you how we can unlock these mysteries. I can show you what Genesis 1, having to deal with the waters above and the waters below. That's what it's about. I can show you in Genesis chapter 2 how it's combining the spirit and soul. And then I can show you in Genesis chapter 3 how that God did not curse you, but God put a tension in you, and only you can go in the core of your tension and work out your salvation. Nobody else can do it. There's you an overview of Genesis 1, 2, and 3, correctly illustrated from the ancient Hebrew, which I extracted that out of this twisted story. Now, is the story twisted on purpose? Well, maybe it is and maybe it's not. Maybe it's that way to get you to diligently observe, or to get you to go into the depths of that story or your story and find out who you really are. And guess what? You and only you can work out your salvation with fear and trembling. Nobody can else. Nobody can do it. But my goodness, when you get some tools, it'd be like if I said, here, I want you to rebuild this motor for me, and you had not any tools to do it. You said, I don't know where to start. I may know where to start, but I don't have anything to do it with. I'm giving you some tools to do the work. I can't do it for you, but I can certainly point you and show you. Do this, use this. This will work. This will work right here. And everything that I'm sharing, these people, like this man right here, I have read a lot of his books. And matter of fact, when I first started, I got a hold of this book right after my conversion, I guess, 45, 46, 47 years ago. And I wanted to go to his school out in California, but I was married. Connie was pregnant with a new baby and just couldn't afford to do it. So I wanted to do his correspondence course because his college or school is still a school that develops a lot of people who go into politics and go into different law. A lot of people who go into law, they graduate from this school. So it's tremendous. He's done so much work. And this book, I don't encourage any of you to get this book. This is a mammoth book to even try, because the subject matter of this book is as vast as the whole universe. Because I mean, it's just like this picture on the front of this book. It's a picture of all mythological material rolled up into one picture. So it includes stuff from Buddhism, Hinduism, Egyptian hieroglyphs. It encompasses a lot of work.
Does he know the languages in Hebrew and Greek?
No, and that's sad. A lot of them didn't. People ask me, who else does this ancient Hebrew? I said, oh, I don't know. I don't know many people. Carlos Soares did. He's been dead since 1971 or 2. He's one of a few. And then I have seen a few people on the internet that do similar things that I do like this with the ancient Hebrew. But for me, when I start to do this and break it down to ancient Hebrew, I have them aha moments. I think, wow, they saw it, but I see it in a light that ties the scripture together with it. So, no, I don't know anybody that does this. To me, it should be put in a book. Lots of books. You know, a book like this, a bigger book. Because it's just so much here. And it's confirmation on top of confirmation. You can see it. So when I realized the soul and the serpent are designed to work together, the soul, which is the mind, that's what the soul is, the word mind, and your ability, the serpent, the nachesh, learning by experience. When you learn by your experience and you connect that to your soul, your mind, the two become one. And that's the part, uniting it in the core. That's what Genesis 3 is about. It's not about a curse. It's about the tension that light brings. It's like, is this not a misnomer? If you want corn, you first have to put a seed in a dark hole in the earth so the light can pull it out of that dark hole from the tension of the light and the magnetic energy of the earth pulling it down, and then you have that seed, and that seed's being stretched. You said, oh my God, we're going down. Oh no, we're going up. We're going down. No, we're going up. That's called a curse. Oh no, and I mean, can you hear the seed? I mean, think about the seed. You think about, oh Lord, I feel it's pulling me hard down into the earth. It's dark. It's cold down there. No, it's pulling me up into the warm and the light. I have a picture that Barbara Simons gave me years ago. It's a big picture, this big. It's at my house. And it's a picture of a human being in a cocoon in an embryonic sac. Beautiful picture, like I said, big. And that person looks kind of like a seed that its legs are being pulled into the earth to develop them, and its arms and its head is being pulled up out of the earth into the light. It's a beautiful picture. And she had that, somebody draw it for her, for me. From a conference I did in College Station 10 years ago in Texas. But if you can hear that, that's what a curse is. It's light from without pulling against the magnetic energy that's pulling, and it looks like it's pulling it apart. But it's not. It's developing it into what it's supposed to be.
Stretching.
It's just like you have the water makeup of your physical body that's pulling you into all of the lower places, temptations and everything. But then you have the light that's pulling you up out of those things. That's how it works. Everything in the physical, visible, manifest world works that way because that's its divine pattern.
It's kind of like that